President Marcos rules out a suggestion to send Navy warships as escorts to resupply missions. President BBM believes that such a move will only cause the escalation of an already tense situation in the West Philippine Sea. For President Marcos, supply runs for Filipino frontliners at sea could still be accomplished even without the presence of the military. This is the first time that Marcos made a reference to the December 4 incident, where two Chinese Navy ships shadowed and blocked a Philippine Coast Guard flagship vessel near the Bajo ni Basinloc or Scarborough Shoal. Such action raised concerns among Filipino security officials who noted that in the past, only Beijing's maritime militia and Coast Guard were involved in encounters. Right then, National Security Council and Philippine Coast Guard officials suggested sending Filipino warships since China is already using such in the disputed waters. But this is an idea that PBBM quickly shut down.
We are not at war. We don't need Navy warships. All we are doing is resupplying our fishermen, protecting our territorial rights. Again, it will be provocative and will be seen as an escalation. We don't do that. The Philippines does not escalate tensions. Quite the opposite. The Philippines always tries to bring down the level of tension.
Let's get some insights on this. On the big story tonight, we have political analyst Edmund Tayao. He is a professorial lecturer at the San Beda University Graduate School of Law. Thank you for joining us on the big story tonight, Professor.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, Professor, two incidents, December 2, December 4. December 2, the laser pointing incident at Hasa-Hasa Shoal. At yung sa December 4 naman, yung Navy ships of China colliding with ours. And actually, hindi pala yun, no? Yun yung sumunod sa ating mga ships. Pero yung B4 natin. Yung
water cannoning, I think.
Water cannoning,
water
and
cannoning.
Also may
chasing.
Collision ng konti. All right. Do you agree with the President's statement not to send warships to the West Philippine Sea? We were talking to Richard Darian, and he said that we probably have hit the ceiling on our current strategy, and we might need to explore options. But the President putting this off the table, do you agree with that move?
I don't know why anyone is going to consider sending gray ships or military ships, in this case the Philippine Navy, in the West Philippine Sea. Actually, this is what China is wanting us to do the whole time. No? Actually, talagang tawag dito, they're baiting us basically to be the one to start the escalation. And this is precisely why kung tawagin sa international politics, sila yung nagpauso ng gray zone. No, ayaw nilang sila yung mauunang magpapaputok o gagamit ng violence, no? But everything that they're doing is actually bordering on out and out violence. And so I'm quite surprised, no, that whether or not it's the officials or an opinion maker is going to say let's send the military. No, China is the one that's baiting us, and we don't want to be playing. No, we don't want to be getting into the play that they want us to take.
Well, I think, Professor, if we can recall the June 17 incident near Ayungin, we remember what happened when the Chinese spotted a Navy boat, right? We lost a finger, we lost some weapons, and that was a big brouhaha. Do you think that was kumbaga, natuto tayo from that experience? Or did that experience just cement na, okay, this is a bad idea, we should not send like warships to that area?
This is not the first time or the second or the third time this is going to happen. In fact, we've been filing was this a diplomatic protest left and right, and as of last count, if I'm not mistaken, if I remember still when I was taking part in some of the discussions there, it has already reached thousands of diplomatic protests, and it's not going anywhere. No, China really is pushing the envelope, so to speak. So again, we don't want to get into the play that China wants us to get into. No, so maraming nasasaktan, no? If we are going to retaliate and we're going to retaliate in a way that will be adjudged as not bordering but out and out violence, tayo yung sasabihin na nagsimula nung gulo diyan, no? So we don't really want to be doing that, no? The formula that the government should be exploring, and I think that this is the direction, no, that the government is doing, is to work more closely, no, to our neighbors, because instead of just working with the United States of America, with Australia or any other country that is outside Southeast Asia, no, should be the way forward, no. And if I'm not mistaken, there's already initiatives, no, towards joint maritime law enforcement. At the end of the day, overlapping din ang claims, no, ng neighboring countries in Southeast Asia. So it's in the interest of all the countries, no, to work together and deal with China as an aggravation instead of just following the preferred approach of China. China has always been dealing with Southeast Asian countries individually, bilateral. Kasi yun ang ginagawa nila, bully talaga yan eh, no? So China is not going to deal with Southeast Asia as ASEAN. China is going to remain dealing with the ASEAN countries as individual countries. That's China is playing right into the weakness of ASEAN. What's this consensual process, no, in decision making.
For a joint maritime patrol, which countries do you see would be most feasible to work with, given the different claims of the countries? And what would be required to have those joint maritime patrols that you're suggesting?
Actually, I'm not just suggesting it. It's already happening, no? Matagal na yung usapan na yan eh. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, even before 2022, there were already initiatives to that effect. I'm not sure how advanced it is right now, but I'm inclined to think that that is the way forward. Yung namang overlapping claims is not as should we say controversial as that which as that of China, kasi China lang naman ang talagang magulong kausap diyan eh, no? So we've had discussions with not only Vietnam, not only Malaysia, even Indonesia for that matter, and that has always been productive, no? I'm not really sure why it's not being publicized much, no? But the discussions have always been there, no? There are agreements that have already been put in place as far as I remember.
Yes, you're right. Actually, I think nagkaroon lang ng joint sale, I believe, with Australia and South Korea just over the weekend. But Professor, ang dami rin kasi
Iba pa yun sa Australia, South Korea. No? South Korea is coming in, no? Because South Korea is also experiencing the same problem, no, in their area together with Japan. Ganun din, nangbubuli din yung China doon sa area na yon. No? In fact, mabang usapan niya, I don't think we'd be able to cover it in this news coverage
but
of yours.
Which countries, Prof? Is it Vietnam, Indonesia?
No. You mentioned earlier Australia and South Korea. Iba pa yon, no? Ibang involvement pa yon kasi donor countries yan eh.
Pero dito po sa joint maritime patrol.
What I'm referring to is maritime law enforcement. No? So, ibig sabihin, joint patrols in the area.
So, kumbaga, joint enforcement.
That's right. Joint
Of all claimants. Of all claimants.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. So, how feasible is that, no? Kasi nakikita natin rin, of course.
It's not happening. It's already happening.
Yes.
In fact, there were already joint patrols
I think
that
with
were
Indonesia. Yeah.
Yes. With Vietnam and Indonesia, if I'm not mistaken, and even Malaysia. Kung hindi man nagkaroon na ng joint patrol, hindi ko na lang maalala with all these issues happening. No?
Okay. Pero Professor, Isa nakikita mo, no? Ang dami kasi nagyari this year, no? We passed our 2 maritime domain law. Yung
Yeah, yeah.
archipelagic zones natin, nagyari yon.
Yeah.
Nabuking din tayo na may task force ayungin dito, di ba? No less than US Defense Secretary Austin was the one who tweeted that. Nabulaga tayong lahat. Some analysts kasi say na, whatever happens, China on the ground or in the water will do what they will at
Yeah.
they don't really care about these things. Kasi may mga iba nagsasabi, kasi magulo yung bansa natin, nag-aaway yung presidente, vice-presidente, so they're taking the chance. Tapos magkakaroon ng transition from Biden to Trump. Your thoughts on all of this, international geopolitics, local politics?
If we're going to factor in all these noises, wala talaga tayong maiisip dito. No? Kasi talagang, at the end of the day, the politics in the United States of America, to my mind, I'd like to, not I'd like, but I've always seen that or considered that as entirely separate from how we deal with the West Philippine Sea. No, magkakaroon man ng pagbabago diyan with the assumption of Trump by January, that will still take time, no? And kung meron mang pagbabago na mangyayari diyan, hindi ganon ka-radical. Take note that regardless whether the president is a Democrat or a Republican, we've always maintained relations with the United States of America, even during the time of the previous president who was obviously very much close to China, no? So hindi magbabago 'yan. Ang magbabago diyan siguro yung direct interest, of the president of the United States of America. But we should also take note that during the first presidency of Trump, he in a number of occasions, made the very described China very negatively, no? So hindi din siya pabor sa China. Ang mag-iiba diyan yung direct assistance na ibibigay ng America under the new Trump presidency, no? But the soonest that the US is affected directly by any action, in the West Philippine Sea, whether by China or the Philippines, papasok ang Amerika diyan, no? Not because we are hurt, not because we were hit or what have you. Basta apektado ang Amerika, papasok yan diyan. So let's disabuse ourselves with all those the more important thing is let's mind ourselves with how to deal with China with all these gray zone tactics. Again, we don't want to play into the bait of China, no? This is purely I can even describe it as a pure and simple psychological warfare. Siyempre, yung unang maiinis, yun ang unang matatalo talaga, no? So wala tayong magawa kasi at the end of the day we're significantly smaller compared to China. So even if we want to go to war, the question is how do we see actually sustaining even, no? If it's just a question of fighting the war, no? Hanggang saan tayo tatagal? Yun ang problema dyan.
But Professor, if you say that, if you propose a joint maritime enforcement amongst the claimant countries, it also means that we have to be able to offer something to drag the other countries into our own conflicts with China, right? So how do we beef up our own fleet? If Coast Guard were to front the patrols, how do we beef up our Philippine Coast Guard that it will have its own integrity and can stand for itself as a credible force?
I'm not sure how to put the two things that you mentioned. No? Let me just answer the first one. No? How do we convince the other parties to cooperate? We don't need to convince them; they're already cooperating. Again, if I may reiterate, in fact, I'm still part of the loop, no, in the exchanges that's happening directly between government officials, no, and civil society groups and scholars or academics like me, no, who are very much interested, no, in the issue or one way or the other have been involved, no, in the issue, no, for some time before or doing some studies now and so on. So I'm sure the line is not only open, and but there have already been agreements. Again, I'm not sure why it's not being publicized much. The end goal here really is to strengthen the relations and the cooperation among the claimant countries. Hindi natin masesettle yung overlapping claims overnight, but at the very least, if the neighboring countries, and I'm sure that they are already convinced that if we work together, at the very least, it will accomplish, at the very least, sidelining or setting aside the problem with China, if we're able to work together. That's why I mentioned earlier having to, or the need to counter China's diplomatic approach dealing with individual countries. China has to be forced to deal with ASEAN as an aggregation, as a group, kasi mas mahihirapan ang China in that with that kind of formula. So nangyayari na 'yon. Yung sinasabi mo na modernization, actually hindi tayo tumitigil sa modernization. If you are going to look at the Coast Guard now, it's a far cry compared to 10 years ago. Marami pang kailangan gawin. In fact, when I left there, ang isa sa mga kailangang tingnan nilang mabuti yung mismong bahay ng Coast Guard. Ang headquarters niyan squatter pa sa Philippine Ports Authority yan. The Coast Guard has to have its own home,
Yes.
That's very crucial because in terms of operations, of course, a main headquarters is very much needed. In fact, even the transit points, all over the country, kailangan ding ma-resolve yan. So it's not just a question of equipment. It's a comprehensive assessment of the capacity of the Philippine Coast Guard. And mind you, if I may, I almost forgot, the transition from the National Coast Watch Council to the National Maritime Council was intended to strengthen the interagency coordination. Kasi interagency yan hindi naman Coast Guard lang ang concern dyan, hindi lang Philippine Navy, marami yan. Kasi pag sinabi mong maritime law enforcement, may immigration yan, may customs yan, may environmental fishing and so on concerns,
Yes.
So yun yung purpose ng National Maritime Council. So apart from strengthening the strengthening of the National Coast Guard will be dependent significantly on the in a more coordinated and comprehensive working arrangement between these agencies that I've mentioned.